We're back. Welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. So, a lot has been happening within the UFO community with the uppity up, most important and popularizing people in this community, dealing with the various governmental facets, dealing with the various private enterprises groups who are utilizing methods to call UFOs, to bring them around so that we can all participate and see them, etc. My friend Patrick at Vetted a couple of days ago put out a video where he showed 4 really very intriguing UFO videos. I'm going to show you one of those and then talk about more about Lou Elizondo, more about Danny Sheehan, more about Jake Barber, more about Jeremy Corbell, and more about Matt Brown. First, let's take a look at this. My clip is going to be shorter than Vetted. The other 2, very interesting. Now, this is from a gentleman who used to be a border control agent. And him and his group were tasked with the idea of watching the border. And so they have some pretty sophisticated camera equipment in order to keep the border secure. In the process, they have found interesting materials. Let's take a look at this one, particularly that caught my eye.
On this freeze of the video, there's a distinct dot down in the bottom left-hand corner. So let's watch what happens to that dot. So the dot's clearly moving around the aircraft.
It seemed at first the A-10 passed that object, and then that object, for whatever reason, decided to catch up to the A-10, it appears.
Could that be a balloon?
There's no balloons that I know that can travel the speed of an A-10.
How fast is the A-10 moving?
I'm not an expert on A-10, but I would assume it's upwards in the couple hundred mile per hour range.
And could it be a drone?
If a drone can travel a couple hundred miles per hour, that's something that someone should probably be interested in.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is it looks like a sphere of some kind. I don't see any propulsion system on it. Do you?
No, I do not.
And yet it's moving at presumably several hundred miles an hour to keep pace with the A-10.
Well, and then in addition to that, it appears the A-10 notices it and kind of turns off.
Did you have any opportunity to speak to the pilot?
No, I did not.
So this is a U.S. Air Force plane?
I've only spoken to the guy that was able to get me this video.
Quite the video. It's going the other direction. The A-10, I believe the A-10 is the Warthog, and I looked it up, and that thing turned back around and chased down that Warthog. And this gentleman mentions that they fly a couple of hundred miles an hour. I looked it up. Warthogs are a low speed flight vehicle. They're not supersonic jets or anything, but they can maximize out at about 450 miles an hour, which is really fast. This one, he estimates a couple of hundred miles an hour. Even if it was 150 miles an hour, that is a pretty incredible anomaly of just something with no means of proportion. There is simply not a physical chance, so far as we're aware, of something of that shape being in the sky in the first place, let alone going one direction and then stopping, turning around, and catching a U.S. Air Force airplane at a couple of hundred miles an hour. That's really remarkable, in my opinion. Now, that was the best one that he showed. Most interesting, too, this gentleman discussed that some of the agents who were trying to watch the Border Patrol actually described, and he says this in explicit detail, a portal in the sky that opened up, and they got pictures of it. The video he did not have. He mentioned someplace or other where it could be. He's not sure where it ended up, but the pictures he has seen, and he said it's kind of like a blob with a blob around it, but he said they described a portal opening up in space. Quite remarkably interesting. So in other news that I've been extremely busy this week. So I've been looking in on Patrick to kind of catch me up on some news. He does good footwork. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Patrick. He has been sharing bits and pieces. Now, and I don't have the full context of this in any of these events just yet. But he has shared in the last week or two, it's been a couple of weeks, Danny Sheehan has come out and has severely criticized Jake Barber for his methodology of calling in UAPs and downing their craft. Now, what's so remarkable to me is I belong to his organization, the New Paradigm Institute, and we get at least weekly. I've gotten a couple of issues per week for the last month or so, a newsletter through the email where he'll bring us up on the news. He will discuss his travels back and forth to Washington, D.C., what they are attempting to accomplish with the Congress, with the various military agencies, with various different UAPs signatories who are working either through the Soul Foundation or elsewhere, where we are attempting to get disclosure more fully from the government. And he has always spoken in a very positive vein about Jake Barber until a week ago. And now he is claiming that the psionic capability of Jake Barber's team, having developed the electronic dog whistle, and they have claimed to have 100% success. Now, and again, for whatever reason, the Barber team just will not show us the videos. The video that this guy showed is vastly superior to anything Jake Barber has shown. He'll show us clips. When I say show us videos, not 3 to 5 second clips and then stop it real quick. Now, very interestingly, the last section, the last time Skywatchers showed videos, and then they gave the 9 different classifications of types, shapes of the UFOs and all. Very sincerely, it was shown how the majority of those shapes could be balloons. They don't just make balloons like the round party balloons that you blow up and have a birthday with. Weather balloons apparently can take on numerous shapes. My suspicion is because it helps them travel differently, and they might be able to get it at higher altitudes going faster in the winds for whatever reason, right? From my stance, far too many of the videos, which interestingly, when the Barber team called them in, they were so far away. And they only showed just 3 to 5 seconds and then shut it down. And so the critique is, well, the reason why they're not going to show you a full, 90-second video clip or whatever is because they're balloons. And it will be patently obvious the way they travel that they'll be balloons. Therefore, they shorten the time, and now they're trying to classify different shapes. Now, that's just one of the critiques. That's not me saying that. That's what I've come across. In my opinion, that's a valid perception. The video clips are just too short, and the shapes really do look too much like weather balloons. There was no anomalous behavior at all that I can detect in any of the Jake Barber Skywatcher video clips. It was too short to watch. This one was a joy because we saw a good 30-second clip video, and then he repeated it and repeated it again as he was describing it and talking about it. When I say we need video evidence of UFOs, this is much more in line with what I'm hoping can be developed, can be shown to us, can be analyzed by experts and critics and believers alike, right? The other very interesting news item is Lou Elizondo, who, Richard Doty came out, and heaven forbids Richard Doty is an anomaly himself, former disinformation agent claiming to come clean, and I can't believe a thing he says, not one. Disinformation agent. Well, Doty has now come out and said that Lou Elizondo was hired to be on a team with him, Richard Doty, in a group to spread disinformation. I have not heard of any kind of a rebuttal from Lou Elizondo or confirmation of it. I don't know if that exists just yet. I'm keeping my eyes peeled. But it appears to me now, didn't the new movie come out? And I may be showing my gross fund of ignorance here. There's a new movie, The Age of Disclosure, that was supposed to come out already. And we've been waiting patiently now for, what, a month? 2 months, The Age of Disclosure. And it still hasn't come out. There were a few reviews of some kind of trailer-like issues with the trailer, but the full video hasn't come out. And now we have some very, very well-known people in the UFO. Lou Elizondo, Danny Sheehan, Jake Barber, and just this recent new 3-part interview, and I have not had a chance to watch it all, but I have been watching it with the absolutely indefatigable George Knapp and his partner Jeremy Corbell, with a new whistleblower again, the actual author of the Immaculate Conception, Matthew Brown. It gives me the impression, and this is not a comfortable situation from my take, it just appears like the UFO community is being taken apart piece by piece. Is there anyone to trust? Is there anyone every time it's a very interesting trigger where I'd ask my audience, I'm going to mention the name and you tell me your first impression. Steve Greer, instantly grifter. Lou Elizondo has been split in a much more even manner, either disinformation agent or legit, etc. Danny Sheehan, incredible lawyer for the public interest, who has done astonishing work. His whole life has been chock full of just powerful lawyer cases in myriads of contexts. He's been on this UFO thing for decades now. His knowledge is simply beyond immense. He has been very, very supportive of the attempts of the Barber team and the Skywatchers and Lou Elizondo. He's been very supportive of their efforts. And now he's coming out and he's saying, wait a minute, with an electronic signal having a 100% chance of calling in the UAPs, and they want to land them, and then what? You know, we could be dealing with fire is the approach here from Danny Sheehan on the Jake Barber methodology, the electronic, it's some kind of a signal pitch, 1.6 hertz or gigahertz, whatever, or I mean, 6.1. So we're not sure yet because Barber is being very, very secretive about it because, of course, he wants the credit. Well, I mean, they worked hard to develop this particular signal. I get all that. That's not a big deal. Oh, and then Psychoactive came out with in a podcast this last week where he is discussing the new layout of a proposal of Colonel Carl Nell now of the Soul Foundation. And Carl Nell is the one who came on a couple of years ago it was a public colloquium, an auditorium full of people, and he was asked by the guy on stage, and he was sitting across the stage, and he was asked by the gentleman interviewing him. He was saying, okay, so what percentage would you give the idea of the reality of aliens and UFOs? And he said, 0 doubt. 0 doubt. And he didn't even hesitate. And he said it the most authoritatively of any military officer I have ever heard. And it just rocked the audience. You could hear the collective gasp with that. And this was on video. And so the gentleman reiterated, he said, okay, so wait a minute. So you are 100% sure that UFOs exist? He said, 0 doubt. Didn't even hesitate. He said, 0 doubt. They exist. They're real. They're 100% real. That's the Carl Nell who has written up this proposal concerning I hope I get this right. I will go through and find the podcasts. I can't do it tonight. Unfortunately, I'm strapped for time. I apologize. I'm trying to squeeze in what I can. So his proposal ends up being, in essence, I'll break it down to the absolute nugget, the core issue here of the government response and government responsibility involved and participating with private enterprises in the idea of gathering UFO data, UFO intelligence, and UFO materials. The bottom line is they should let private people gather data. The government. Let them gather the UFO data, but ultimately it will be under the auspices of government sponsorship, which in essence is what Jake Barber has claimed the Skywatcher team is doing. He's openly said, well, we are working in conjunction with other government agencies in order to acquire enough validity, enough help, enough cooperation, perhaps enough money so that we can update our materials so that we can go ahead and bring in the UFOs and potentially land them. Now, when they first started, their goal, of course, is to land this material, as he's told Ross Coulthart, and we want to acquire it. We want to pick up the craft. We want to have it for our study. Now, Danny Sheehan also says that is severely problematic. I believe I responded the same way in a rather emotional, heated discussion on one of my videos where I said something to the effect that even if they acquire for real an actual UFO, there's not a chance a government agency, any one of them, is going to let a private citizen take the UFO into their garage and study it and learn all about it and then turn around and share a video on YouTube with the public. That's not going to happen. In other words, regardless of whether private enterprise backed by multi-millionaire contributions from people who are interested in sponsoring this type of incredibly cool scholarship, gamesmanship, ability to try to get UFO data, the private enterprise is an expansion of the hope of acquiring more data. That's what we need. I do believe everyone is under the opinion now and have voiced it in one form or another that the data for the UFOs is just not that singularly impressive at this point. Aside from the fact of earlier books from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s of various different people involved in government agencies and coming out and talking about what they were doing secretly behind closed doors, etc. I'm thinking Corso and Richard Nolan has documented a lot of this, and the idea of the nuclear plant interest of the UFOs, etc. Aside from all of the various evidences, the declassified UFO files, etc., that appears to not sway a lot of people. When we get to pictures, that is probably even worse. It's more unpersuasive. When we get to videos, there's something lacking. There's just something that doesn't quite click. There's always some out. There's always something that just remains unconvincing. It's on the horizon, but it's still way out there. And we just don't have any really superb, outstanding, good data on the UFO anomaly. It appears to me that now the various most important UFO folks are beginning to get divided among themselves. Who is legit and their methods, why there are disinformation agents, how would a disinformation agent work and make sure the disinformation got out there. How come the information is always appearing to be on a negative end rather than a positive reinforcing end? And you're saying, well, wait a minute, that's not true, because you've got the Soul Foundation and all that. They are, for lack of a better description of the marvelous work that the Soul Foundation is doing. At first, I was extremely excited about them, but it's all just white paper. I know Gary Nolan is on the Skywatcher team, etc., but I mean, between the Soul Foundation hasn't shown any really good UFO video or pictures any more than the Skywatcher team has. So the quality of evidence appears to me to still be lacking, even though the foundation is doing some tremendous meetings together. It's a tremendous think tank, a meeting of the minds. But can we just get on with it? Can we move beyond white paper and get to the actuality, right? Now, and I'm going to say something, and I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm still debating. I'm trying to figure out if I can financially afford to go to the Contact in the Desert coming up pretty quick. It's just a couple of weeks away. All of the great UFO personalities are going to be there. If I can pull this off, I'm going to try to get there. I don't know if I can. It is a serious financial commitment for me personally. My question is this. You have all of the workshops, wonderful. There's going to be some wonderful discussions, great food, a lot of fun, activities, workshops, psionic workshops, remote viewing workshops, UFO information, etc. You'll meet famous authors, you'll meet famous lecturers, you'll meet famous YouTubers, etc. Will they hold an event? They're at Contact in the Desert, the largest gathering worldwide of UFO enthusiasts. Are they willing to put up cameras on the sky, go live, and call in UFOs at that event? Now, that would rock. Or are they just going to talk about it all, of what's already been done? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out as that would be a way to put Contact in the Desert on the map. But then a lot of people have been trying to do that, and they just have not succeeded yet with the general public in large. Astonishingly enough, we have to recognize and realize that the vast majority of people in the world don't even know what a UFO is. They don't even know the subject exists. In the United States alone, I have heard that the UFO enthusiasm, and you're saying, well, now this can't be possible because we see news item after news item after news item, constant talk of UFOs, etc. The vast majority of them just don't even know about the subject, nor do they care. And when I say vast majority, I mean 270,000 out of 270 million out of 300 million. There might be, well, that's way too low too. There's not 30 million people interested in UFOs. There's just several 100,000 people. So it's a very, very minuscule community. Yeah, we're vocal within our own community and all, but the rest of the world just doesn't appear to be interested or see it, which to me is quite interesting, questionable. It's an absolutely fascinating topic. I can't leave it alone, even though I get very discouraged at times with it. So these developments where everyone is now beginning to argue back and forth, saying, well, after all, that method's not safe, it's not legitimate, I question it, which means, of course, the evidence is going to also be questioned. Well, that person's a grifter now. Well, I don't like how that person's doing this, etc. So-and-so's book is wrong. It appears like the UFO community, to me, seems to be dividing, and the information that is coming out is iffy. Now, the exception I will put right now, and again, I'm saying this in ignorance of the overarching total subject of George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell's new interview, 3-part interview with Matt Brown. I have not had a chance to watch it all. And he seems pretty sober. In fact, he seems somewhat frightened. He was the author of The Immaculate Conception. He has now come out at great danger to his life. And there are times in this interview where he does not feel comfortable. You can see it. There are other times where he's trying to explain something, and his body language is this. He's holding back. He's hiding something because his life's on the line. This is kind of what we're trying to help Congress acquire the power to give these type of people help. Do you have video evidence, etc., pictures? Do you actually have a body of a dead alien, etc.? That's what we need to come out. We need to get a craft to Congress. We need to get a dead alien body, or maybe even a living alien. There are people who testify there's living aliens down there in Area 51 working with people in Area 51 right now as I'm speaking. They are alive and well, and they do their work with the humans. There are not a lot of them, but they testify. Wouldn't that be nice to get one of them to Congress and have an alien tell Congress, yeah, hey, here I am. It's real. This is the caliber of evidence that we really need to make this stick. The bad news is I'm very hesitant to think it's ever going to happen. Look, if disclosure is going to, the government can't tell it all. If you want it to say the UFOs are real, it's already done that. We're past that point. Everyone missed the memo. They've said it several times. Gary Nolan's correct. They've already said, yeah, this is real. It's happened. NASA has said so through Chris Bledsoe, Jim Semivan, and Colonel Alexander, etc. They've already said it's real. So if you're still wondering, well, is it real or not? The government will help us. They've already gone that far. It needs to go farther now, and that is seriously unlikely. So my proposal is we'll get disclosure when the aliens decide it's time. And there's not a lot we can do about it. So keep living our lives. We do need to shift our mentality somewhat to more towards being kindly neighbors to each other within our own neighborhoods, within our own cities and states, within our own countries, and around the world. That could help. That's a taller order than asking a living alien to come and reveal himself, however. It's more likely a living alien will do that than that we can grow up, mature, and work together as a world community. And that's pathetic, but that's how I see it. I'm very skeptical on that front. I wish I wasn't, but I see no good evidence at all that we're ever going to pull it out. We will destroy ourselves. So I sincerely hope if the ET is real, and they are interested because they've been here for so much longer than us, and this too is their home, I hope they have enough invested in saving the earth that they can save us from us, because we are too short-sighted and we are too mean-spirited. We're the stupid monkeys that kill each other if we argue instead of making love like the other style of monkey to work it out. And that's sad. The dominant species ended up being the wrong ones to help live for a long time on our earth. So I am hoping the ETs are friendly and capable of helping us. That would be cool. But then what's the price to pay because we won't make the right choice? You know, are we going to have to give up our sovereignty as a species? Gary Nolan brings that point up in one of his interviews several months back. So that's my presentation tonight. I will be back with more as I can. I appreciate all the support. I love all of you. I got to go tonight, but have a great day. Have a great day tomorrow, and I will be back just as soon as I can to share more as I find it.